So for our third story, Virginia votes to legalize marijuana. So Virginia becomes the 16th state to legalize marijuana over the weekend. The Virginia House of Representatives passed a measure in a 48-43 vote, and the Senate approved it in a 20-19 vote. Not a single Republican voted for the bill in either chamber, which we will talk a bit about later on. But sales will not start fully until January 1st of 2024. That is also when full legalization will be enacted as well. Residents at that point in time will be able to possess up to an ounce of marijuana, which is a lot of marijuana, and grow up to 4 plants at their house as well. Until then, possession will just be a $25 fine. So it does look like they're completely decriminalizing marijuana currently. And then once January 2024 hits, you'll be able to open up a dispensary, you'll be able to sell it, they'll be able to tax it, and that's pretty much why a lot of it's being passed, because they want the taxes. But the most interesting part about this bill is actually how many of the Democrats there in Virginia have said that this is more of a racial justice bill and not just a marijuana legalization bill. The bill sets a 21% excise tax on marijuana and then allows municipalities within Virginia to add an additional 3% tax on retailers on top of the existing sales tax. So it's going to be taxed very, very heavily. This is expected to bring in, within the first year or so, about $200 million of tax revenue to the state, which has to be used in a very, very specific fashion. So first, 40% has to go to pre-K education. 35% has to go to the new Cannabis Equity Reinvestment Fund, which we will talk a bit about in a second. 25% goes to substance use disorder treatment programs, and then 5% goes to other public health initiatives. This was the biggest sticking point for the Republicans in the legislature. It was around the social justice initiatives that are basically being done to help people that have been disproportionately affected by the current marijuana laws that are in place. So many of the Democrats were basically saying this: marijuana laws have disproportionately, by a large measure, affected Black and minority communities, specifically Black communities, in all of the different studies that they did. So the legislation was based on 2 extensive studies on the issue. One was a report from the current governor's administration, and then the second was another nonpartisan report from the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Committee. These reports basically found that Black communities were, from 2010 to 2019, they quote, the average arrest rate of Black individuals for marijuana possession was 3.5 times higher than the arrest rate for white individuals and significantly higher than arrest rates for other racial or ethnic groups. Black individuals were also convicted at a much higher rate, 3.9 times higher than white individuals. So Democrats came in and they were like, based on the findings in this report, and these 2 reports, we want to be able to enact legislation around marijuana that will actually benefit Black people and minority people that have been affected more perversely by the current marijuana legislation. So that new Cannabis Equity Reinvestment Fund will be specifically geared towards helping Black individuals in their getting out of jail and finding and getting jobs. It will also be for helping Black and Latino and minority individuals that want to open up some sort of dispensary or basically open up a business that would be able to make profits from the newly legalized marijuana business to be able to do it. This was the sticking point that a lot of Republicans said that this type of legislation specifically was not something that they would vote for. They were like, I think one of the Republicans was quoted as saying that this is, we don't have this for any other substances, right? We don't have it for alcohol. We don't have it for tobacco in any type of way. Why would we just go in and give more money specifically to Black people because it's a marijuana bill? That doesn't make sense. Black people and white people should have just as much of the same opportunity to be able to open up dispensaries as they can. And there's no reason why Black people should have a better opportunity at getting money from the government or better approval processes for getting dispensaries or other type of for-profit businesses in the marijuana industry. Really interesting. So I am somewhat torn on this because I personally do not love and I'm not a huge fan of and this may sound a bit controversial, but a lot of the affirmative action type of laws that are rolled out in order to be able to benefit Black communities, because I do think in some ways it actually is a detriment to Black communities. That's an incredibly nuanced conversation. I don't have time to actually talk through the entirety of that argument right now, but I am normally very weary of, we don't want to be racist, so we're going to cater to one race more. Because oftentimes what ends up happening is you end up disproportionately affecting other races that just aren't Black, right? And that's not good. However, specifically with this marijuana legislation, it is 100% factual that Black people have been disproportionately affected by the incredibly large war on drugs that has been around for the past 40 to 50 years, and especially marijuana. There are people that are in jail for years and years for possession of marijuana or selling marijuana or smoking weed. It is absolutely unbelievable. And it is a fact, those studies are not lying when they say that Black people are not only arrested at a higher rate, but they are also convicted at a higher rate for any and all types of marijuana-related offenses or crimes. It's just true, okay? And if you want to be able to repair that in some way or another, a great way to do it is allowing those people then to be able to go and make money off of the marijuana industry that I'm sure will absolutely explode in Virginia come 2024 once it actually gets rolled out. I don't know all of the specific intricacies of the bill at this point in time. I read through a good portion of it. It does seem like something that I think could be incredibly beneficial. How they parse through what actually is given out, what is handed out in the new Cannabis Equity Reinvestment Fund that is going to be created, that's going to be a bit up for debate. I'm sure that the governor there at Northam in Virginia also is probably going to send it back with a couple tweaks and edits that he wants. Many are expecting him actually to want to push the timeline back for legalization back to even into 2022 so that it happens much quicker as opposed to waiting for a couple of years for it to happen. But we're going to have to see. It's a very, very interesting case in Virginia because it's the first state in the South, really, that has voted to actually legalize it. And it's only the third state in the country that has legalized it through a legislative process. Every other state actually did it through a popular vote. Very interesting. So I think the vast majority of states, if they actually put something on a ballot for legalization of cannabis, it would pass with flying colors because it really is a bipartisan. Most people agree bipartisanly that they don't care if marijuana is legal or not. So we'll have to see how this plays out over the next couple of years. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how marijuana legislation starts to change now that a state in the South, even though probably one of the more progressive states in the South, has actually legalized pot. And we'll have to kind of see where it goes from here.